Hi there, I'm Chris from Framerverse, and in this video I'm going to show you my new Framer pop-up advert kit, and this will allow you to add adverts, pop-up adverts, modal windows that you add in Framer, and then activate them through triggers. Very different to how overlays work, but also allow for cookies to be placed on the user's browser to ensure that you can control when those pop-ups show and how many times they show. So this is a really useful toolkit for any commercial site that needs any kind of pop-up advert and they want to control it. The great thing with this is that this kit gives you all of the basics to get you started. You can then design any advert you want because everything's just built in Framer. There's some overrides, there's some settings components, but everything else is just built in Framer, which gives you full control. And once you have the kit, you can use it as many times as you like on as many sites as you like, and it will give you full control. So let's take a look at the kit. The file that you get is as seen here. You have the introduction, this video, the test video, which is just a shorter video, and then we have 3 starter adverts. So we've got a vertical, a horizontal, and a full screen, and they have the full structure to just copy and paste into your project, ready to design your advert and to get you started. But they are just starters, so they can, as I said, it can be anything you want. They have some additional little components in them as well that I've built to help with the creation of adverts, so that's great as well. So I'll show you those in a minute. Then we have our settings component, which controls how the adverts show and gives you a visual control rather than just code based. And then we have our ad controller that actually manages the advert when it pops up and so on, and that's a set of overrides, and that's in one file. Now, why am I not just giving you a URL to a component? Well, these two components need to talk to each other, and whilst that could be done, it's a bit contrived, so I just find it easier to just have the code and to create 2 new code files in whatever project you're working on and paste the code in. The other benefit of this is that you get the code base, so if you want to make some changes to the code or anything like that, you're welcome to do so because you have access to the code. And keeping the file names the same and the code base the same and so on just makes it a lot easier when we're problem solving because we've already got some defaults. Okay, so let's take a look at how these adverts are structured. They are just components, so we can double click and we can go in and you can see it's just a Framer structure. Okay, so we've got our background, which is the equivalent to like an overlay. We have a close button, then we have the pop-up itself. Inside there's a wrapper, there's an image, then there's the content, and then we have these 2 action components that I've put in. One is a coupon copy code thing, so you can change that coupon code on the component itself. You can see here you can change that to whatever you want, and we have the ability to switch between newsletter sign up or copy code. But again, I've just put that in here as a demo. You can have anything you want in there, and this copy code component's fully functional. You can see you can get in there and change that to whatever you want. And then with the form, it's just a Framer form, so you can connect it up to whatever you want to. So this is the structure, but we do have some variants that are essential. Okay, so the code in the whole system looks for pop-up desktop, pop-up tablet, pop-up phone, and it also looks for pop-up closed, which is when the advert's closed and shut down. It's essential really that you keep those the same unless you want to change it in the code itself. So that's why I'm giving you these adverts, not only to get you started, but this is the structure. And if you just keep the structure the same and just change the look and feel of them, everything will 99.9% sure will work out spot on. Okay, right, so that's how each of these adverts are structured. They're just laid out differently for each one, but initially the structure's the same. So let's get on with adding one of these adverts to the site. There's a few steps. They're very straightforward, and as I said, you can do this within as many sites as you want. So first things first, let's grab an advert. So we'll just grab this vertical one, and we will actually that is vertical. Yeah, that is vertical. we'll just copy that and go into our demo site here. I've just put together a little demo page. It doesn't have to be this, obviously, it's your site. I just made it simple so that the content's not interfering with anything. And we're just going to paste that in. So once that comes into the page, let's just put it at the top just for ease of management. And let's make sure it's fixed. And then we're going to set it to, let's set it to relative 100%. Let's set the height to fit content. And let's just make sure that we are 0, 0 on the left and right so that it fills the screen. Now, the reason we've done that is we want this advert to be fixed, and so when it pops up wherever you're on the page, it fills the screen. We don't need to set it to 100% viewport because it's already done that in the advert. So we want, and because the variant will change based on whether it's a closed advert or the tablet and so on, we want the height to fit the content. Okay, so that's why we've set that to fit. And then just going down the different breakpoints here, let's just right click on this and set to reset overrides. And then on the phone, again, let's just do reset overrides so that everything, and then we're just going to change it to pop-up phone and pop-up tablet. Now, the reason why we've done that here, it's not essential for it to work because the code actually changes the variant based on the breakpoint that you're at, but just from a visual point of view so that we can see it. And if you, once you've finished with your advert, you can just switch it to pop-up closed, and obviously so you can see your content below, and that'll work perfectly fine. So it knows whether it's open or closed when you viewing the code. So we'll just keep it open for the time being. Let's double click on it and unlink and replace this instance so that we've got it running locally on the page, and then that gives us the ability to edit everything. Right, now let's add our code. So first of all, what I've found is the easiest way to do this, and why I've done it like this, is if we just go back to the kit and hit play, then you can just jump up and down the kit from here. So the first thing we want to add is the settings component. So this will be the visual settings, so we can just copy the title there. I've made it super easy to do, and then we'll go into code, new code file. I'm going to paste that name in there. It's a component, so we'll click create, select everything and delete it. Go back to the kit, click on copy to clipboard for the settings, paste it in and save. Okay, so that's that one done. Next, we're going to create the add controller overrides. So we'll click on add controller, copy the name of this file, click on the plus button, new code file. This is going to be an override. Paste the title in there, the title of the file, and then go and copy to clipboard the actual code itself. Select everything, paste it in and save. And that's our code base now. That's it. Okay, so next we're going to drag our, I don't want to drag it on there. Let's drag that up here. Let's go to our layers and just make sure it's actually on the page, and we'll pop it up there. And I'm just going to make that absolute, and I'm going to set it to -1, just so that it's off the page, and set the opacity to 0 so it doesn't interfere with any content visually by accident. And we can see if we've got our pop-ups advert settings selected, we can see that these are the controls we've got, and I'll go through those in a minute. Let's just get everything set up. So next we're going to need to add the overrides to the component. Now, why haven't I included them so that you just copy and paste them over? Well, because sometimes files don't come over or things don't work properly, and this is just a surefire way of making sure that everything's hooked up correctly and works. Okay, so first off, we're going to select our advert component. We're going to go down to our code overrides. We're going to select the pop-up advert control, which is the one we just put in there. You may have a list of them if you've got lots of overrides in your page. We've only got that one on this page, so that's one. And then we're going to select advert controller, so that's been applied to the advert. Then we're going to double click in to our advert. Let's select the close button. Let's go down to our code overrides, make sure we've got pop-up advert control selected, and go to close handler. That's that one done. Then let's make sure we're selecting the component, the the top component element, and then go to code overrides, make sure our file is selected, and go to accessibility. The accessibility one just allows you to use the escape key to close the window when it shows up. Okay, that's everything set up now. So that now you can go in and change whatever you want, change the content, everything else, and that's now applied. So let's take a look at the settings before we actually publish and test this out. So in our pop-up settings, we've got live and pause. So we can switch advert off completely if we switch between live and pause. With these settings changed, you do need to republish your site. Obviously, these settings are applied to this tool, but you do need to publish. So it's not just a case of you switch it from live to pause and it's done. You need to publish. We've got the pop-up advert ID. Now this is used in the cookie, and I'll show you when we test this out so that you can see where the cookie is. And you need this for a couple of reasons. One, if you're having to use GDPR or cookie policies where you're listing your cookies, you can change this advert name, this cookie name, to whatever you want. Okay, and you'd want to list it there and what this does. Now, from a cookies point of view, there's no data stored with this apart from when the cookie's meant to expire. So there's no danger of this storing anybody's data or something like that. So just in your cookie policy, if you do have to list your cookies, it's just responsible for opening and closing the advert, or at least setting the expiration date of when the advert will show next. The delay relates to how long the delay between when the page loads and when the advert shows. Okay, and this is done I've done it in seconds to make it nice and easy. Then we can set the expiration date of the cookie. Now, obviously the expiration sets when the advert can reopen. So split this up into minutes, hours, days, and weeks. For example, if you wanted the advert to only be able to show twice a day, then you could set that to 12 hours. So during that day, there's only 2 points that it could show up. You could change that from you could change from weeks, days, like I've said. So you might want an advert to only show up once a month. Well, in which case set that to 4 weeks, and so on. You get the idea. The breakpoints relate to, obviously we're familiar with breakpoints. We've set up tablet, desktop, and phone on the site, and this relates to them. Now, I would leave these as they are. If you need to change them for any reason, mobile is from 0 to 810, tablet is from 811 to whatever, and this generally works. So this will look, when it gets to whatever breakpoint you've set as the maximum for that breakpoint size, it will switch the variant to whichever is the appropriate variant. But generally that will just be not change, but I've put it in there as a feature anyway. Scroll trigger. So this is a really good way of opening an advert. It doesn't have to be set to a delay. You could have an advert pop up when you get to a certain part on the page, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. So you can put your scroll trigger in here. And then we've got exit intent. Now this is a really good one, and this is what I think sets this particular component or kit apart. You can have exiting intent for your adverts. So you know the kind of adverts where the person is going to go off the page and you say, hey, before you go, if we can grab your email, you can have a 20% discount, or whatever the case may be. So exit intent is really useful, and that's built into this. Okay, let's take a look at the advert. So we've got it on a delay of 3 seconds. Let's publish the site and then go to preview. We've got our site here. We'll wait 3 seconds and there's our advert. Great, works. Click close, job done. Now, how would we retest this? Because now we've set an expiration. Now we could set the seconds it to 1 minute, but we'd have to wait a minute to test. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So if we right click on the page and go to inspect, so I'll bring our inspect panel up here. And if we go to application, this relates to everything that's on the page related to this particular page. And then if we click on the first cookies list here, you can see there's our cookie for our pop-up advert, and we can just delete that. Now we can refresh the page and retest it. Okay. If we don't delete the cookie, because we've set an expiration to it, it won't show. Okay, and that's the whole point of this. So let's take a look at some of the other settings. Let's change the, rather than the delay, we're going to use, let's use the exit intent now. So I'm going to switch that on, and you notice that some of the settings disappear because we don't need them. And let's publish, and let's make sure that we've deleted our cookie so that we can test it. And go to our Framer site. I'm going to refresh and quickly move my cursor onto the page, and you'll see why now. Right, so refresh, cursor's on the page now. My advert is not going to show up at all. It's not on a delay or anything like that. However, if I go to do something else, or I go to, and the page thinks I'm going to move somewhere else, you can see that the advert is activated. Great. Let's add a trigger now. So I'm going to go down to here, and in my layers, I've locked everything out to make it easy for me to update, but let's go down to cards, and I'll go down to scroll section, and I'm going to call this trigger. You can call it whatever you want, but the two need to match, as you'll see. So I've set that to trigger. So I want the advert to trigger when this becomes into the viewport. Go into my advert settings. I'm going to switch exit intent off, and I'm going to put hash trigger. So it's an anchor point. So it's looking for that anchor point now. Okay. So I'll hit publish, update, and we'll go back to our site, make sure that we haven't got a cookie there, pop-up advert, and we'll hit refresh. So that advert's not going to show at all. So if the person doesn't scroll beyond this point, they're not going to show, but you might want to get them at a particular point. So as we scroll down the page here, we get to that point where it starts to show and our advert shows up. So you've got 3 different ways in which you can get an advert to show, which is great. If we want to change our cookie name, let's change that. Let's change that to cookie, let's say test. Make sure there's no spaces or special characters on your cookie name as well. So just keep it camel case or so on, and we'll publish that. And we're going to just make sure that our cookie's deleted in this instance, and then I'm going to just make sure that in our settings, what have we got it on? We've got cookie test live. We'll set the trigger to 0 because we're not going to use a trigger. So if it has something in there, in order to switch layer triggering off, just set the scroll trigger to 0, and we just republish that in fact. And now if we have this open, we should be able to refresh. We'll see our advert shows up and our cookie test has been written to the browser. Okay, and you can see that everything's functional and nothing, this will stay on the page until somebody hits close, which is an important feature of a pop-up advert. And with the ad itself, you can move that close to wherever you want. You could move that into, I'm going to do unlink and replace all, because obviously that's not been unlinked from where it was pasted from yet. So you can move that to wherever you want. And I always find it annoying when people in their pop-up ads put a very small close thing and it's the same color as the background. It's very difficult to see, obviously, because they want you to see the advert for longer, but that's why I've made it big, because I think people should be able to change that how they want. Yeah, so that's it. You would do the same process for each one of those adverts. So we've copied and pasted it over. Let's say we wanted to add let's put a different advert in there now. Let's just delete this one and let's go back to our kit. And let's get the full screen one here. So we'll copy that, take this into my site, move it up to the top here. I'm just going to go through the process of setting it to fixed to 100%, set that to fit content, and we'll do a 0, 0 here. And then let's just, we should be, yeah, we're all good on the, fine. And now remember, we need to apply the overrides to this to make sure it's working. So I'm going to double click into it, unlink and replace, and go into the advert. And let's do it the right way around. Let's first of all select the advert, go to our code overrides, select advert controller, double click into the advert, select the close code overrides and choose the close handler, and then choose the top component itself. code override and accessibility. And now this advert is ready to run. So we've got all of our settings here. Cookie test, let's call that cookie test 2 just to differentiate. We've got our delay, everything else exactly the same. We hit publish. Let's remove that cookie test cookie there, and let's refresh the page. And there's our full screen advert with cookie test 2. And that's as easy. It's as easy as that too. And you can modify obviously everything from this. So that is my kit for you. Thank you very much for purchasing it, and I hope you find it useful. There isn't anything that I know of like this out there yet. Obviously other people might come along with that, but hopefully I've extensively tested this and it's gone through a lot of testing. Oh, one last thing that I wanted to show you is the live and pause before I sign off. Right, so live and pause, you get what it's going to do. So if I pause the advert and I publish, and don't forget, every time you make a change to the settings, you need to publish your site. Make sure that the cookie's gone. And now when I refresh the site, regardless of what I do, that advert is now no longer going to show. So obviously, if you've got an advert that's expired and you don't want it on, just hit pause. And because the advert's still there, so you can make the changes, just hit pause, republish, and that advert's switched off. And then you can change the advert and switch it to live and so on. So that's that. Right, so as I was saying, thank you very much for purchasing this. I hope you find it genuinely useful, and now you can create proper pop-up adverts for your customers' websites on as many sites as you want with this kit. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.